doesn't start a riot. She doesn't start a protest. She doesn't somehow try and tear down other people or tear down the government. What she does is she starts a series of worship services because she knows eternity is more important than anything that goes on here right now. And she wants people to know that the way you get to heaven is to trust in what Christ has done because he lived the perfect life in our place. I mean, she is amazing when you think about this. Just 4 months ago, and she's starting worship services. Meanwhile, the left is disrupting them.
A pro-life activist thinks churches need to be very deliberate about educating people on the issues of life.
Joseph Parker of American Family Association says January is Sanctity of Human Life Month, and the March for Life is set for tomorrow. As a result, Parker says now would be a good time to get started.
The fact is, there's a lot of ignorance out there, and for that reason, sadly, the abortion numbers continue to be way too high in our society. The fact is, most abortions today are chemical abortions.
Missouri Senator Josh Hawley made similar comments at a recent press conference with lawmakers and pro-life groups.
There are more abortions today in the United States than when Roe versus Wade was the law of the land. And why is that? It's because of the chemical abortion drug mifepristone.
Despite the efforts of pro-lifers, Parker says many people are unaware of this statistic.
Also, lots of people have never heard of abortion pill reversal. That's a means whereby once a woman has taken the first pill, that there's the possibility that if she changes her mind, that the baby could still possibly be saved. Lots of people have never heard of abortion pill reversal. So churches need to be very deliberate about educating ourselves about the issues surrounding life, and just overall need to get more involved with standing for life and against abortion.
I'm Chris Woodward.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
At Wesley Biblical Seminary, we believe God is raising up a movement across our nation and around the world who hold fast to the inerrancy of Scripture and the hope of holiness. We do this through bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees, certificate programs, and even training for lay people. So whatever your next step is in being equipped for ministry, we're here for you. And if you believe these are the kind of pastors we need leading churches in the future, we invite you to think about giving to Wesley Biblical Seminary. Learn more about us at wbs.edu.
Jenna Ellis in the morning on American Family Radio.
I love talking about the things of God because of truth and the biblical worldview. The U.S. Constitution obligates our government to preserve and protect the rights that our founders recognize come from God, our Creator, not our government. I believe that Scripture in the Bible is very clear that God is the one that raised up each of you, and God has allowed us to be brought here to this specific moment in time.
This is Jenna Ellis in the morning.
Good morning. It is Thursday, January 22nd, and everyone is talking about Davos, with Glenn Beck, interestingly, hailing Trump's speech as possibly the best presidential speech he's ever heard in his lifetime. So that is very fascinating and I think very high praise from Glenn Beck. But it appears that, a lot of people there are directly confronting the World Economic Forum on the failure of globalism, some other things. But Trump, in his over hour-long speech, backed off some of the tariff threats, hailed a framework of a future deal on Greenland, and he announced following a meeting with the NATO secretary that they had, quote, formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, the entire Arctic region. So Trump added that because of the progress, he is not planning to impose the tariffs he threatened on regional countries on February 1st. This is coming from NPR. Additional discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be made available as discussions progress. That was Trump's Truth Social post. And so let's welcome in Larry Taunton, who is an author, a freelance columnist, and has been attending Davos for a while. So Larry, give us your take, and kind of, it sounds like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, this is well, first of all, Jenna, it's great to be with you. The last time I spoke to you, I was in Rome, but right now I'm driving through the center of Davos, and it's the aftermath of President Trump's address. And, I've seen characterizations of it that he was belligerent or that he was fiery. I think I saw a headline that said that. Trump was He was friendly. He was humorous, and yet he was firm. He was Donald Trump.
Yeah, and it's so funny that people are suggesting, they always characterize him however they prefer. That's not necessarily accurate. But in terms of substance, what does this actually mean for the future?
Well, something, Jenna, that I think has been missed by everyone that I have read or seen comment on Trump's speech is the focus is all about NATO or Greenland, and that wasn't the focus of his speech. The focus of his speech, the connecting thread of everything, talking about windmills, talking about Ukraine, talking about the economy, all of it had to do with, from his perspective, improving the lives of the American people, so elevating their standard of living. And so in his mind, that's the hub, and everything else is a spoke off of that. So, for instance, NATO, he was basically saying, look, we're sick of sending trillions of dollars with nothing in return. Ukraine, he was pointing out that month by month, roughly 30,000 Ukrainian boys are killed. And he's saying, I mean, is this really the future you want? He talked about Greenland from the point of view of protecting both Canada and the United States from a nuclear threat. And all of it had to do with improving the lives of American citizens. So he wasn't there talking about the globe, the world, any of these kinds of things. He was very clear, I'm here on behalf of the American people. And I have to tell you, Jenna, that coming year after year as I do to the World Economic Forum, that stands in sharp contrast to the mood of Davos, because you see, Davos, this is a gathering, it's a billionaire boys club. And when they talk about, like, the WEF slogan, as they say, the WEF, World Economic Forum, the WEF slogan is improving the state of the world. Well, when they say that, Jenna, they're not talking about improving your life or the life of someone in Asia or Africa or South America. They're talking about it from the standpoint of the environment and depopulation and these kinds of things. So when Trump comes along and he's talking in very practical terms about, let's say, the housing market for Americans and making it possible for people to own homes, that stands in sharp contrast to what this place is about.
Yeah, and this is why Trump has made waves at Davos for years. I mean, one of his very first speech there, I had to put it mildly, really put him on the map. I think as a number one target of the globalist leftists, because on their own turf, he brings these Western values and American ideas of capitalism, of private property, of of limited government, of ensuring that we're doing things the American way, and that is a sharp contrast between what a lot of the other leaders are suggesting. And so we know that people like Klaus Schwab and then they have a new co-chairman, I believe, are obviously are way off. But where are and we'll get to them in a second. I want your opinion on that. But but where are the other world leaders? Are they following Trump's lead, or any of them, in terms of standing up against what the WEF stands for?
Yeah, I think so. But I think those ranks are probably starting to swell just a little bit. But it's still small. Like most, in fact, I would say all of Western Europe, with the exception of Giorgia Meloni in Italy, are all on board with a globalist agenda. Their own citizens be damned. I mean, they don't care how that affects them or whether they like it or not. You also have Javier Milei in Argentina, and I think Orban in Hungary, and yet others, but. It was very interesting. One of the speeches given yesterday, not by Trump, and pardon me, I've forgotten the name of the person who gave it, was that globalism has failed. And that's quite a speech to give at the World Economic Forum, which is all about globalism. Mm-hmm. And I think it was very jarring to people. And yet at the same time, I think most people probably are of the opinion, if they're honest, that it's true. And so over lunch, I was having conversation with a representative of the Indonesian government, and he was saying that he felt that that mood that globalism has failed has sort of permeated this year's World Economic Forum, and now it's more about international cooperation, which is a little different.
Yeah, and so and that was really interesting. And so we were talking about the co-chair. Who is this person, and what is the vein that they'll take the WF into?
Yeah, well, this is really interesting, Jenna. So Klaus Schwab has been he's been the founder, 1971, and sole chairman of the World Economic Forum since that time until last year. So for 55 years, the octogenarian has reigned over the World Economic Forum. Well, they bumped him off last year. I don't mean they killed him, but they killed his chairmanship. He was ousted. And all the talk was that the World Economic Forum really needed to have a face that was more representative of the world. So who did they go get? Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, which manages 12 trillion, that is with a T, 12 trillion in assets. And also Andre Hoffman, who is, you may not have heard of him, but he's the CEO of Roche Holdings, which is the 8th largest pharmaceutical company in the world and the largest family-owned pharmaceutical company in the world. So you know how popular pharmaceuticals are now with people around the world, and with these two co-chair who are multi-billionaires. And it just goes to show you how out of touch the World Economic Forum is, Jenna, because they don't have representatives of real life, of real people. I mean, these are individuals, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. They're flying in their private jets, and they helicopter. They don't drive. They helicopter from the airport into Davos, where they transfer into their their very large luxury sedans. Now, I want to be very clear. I have no problem with private jets. I have no problem with luxury sedans. But if you're gonna ride around in those, you don't need to get out of them and walk in to a building and lecture the whole world on their carbon footprint. And that's kind of a glimpse of how they think here. See, they don't see it as even hypocritical. They see themselves as an exception to the rules. The rules simply do not apply to us.
That's always the leftist liberal way. I mean, and that's a classic, Marxist tactic as well, is that you have,
course.
you have the elites, and then you have everybody else who pay for your lifestyle. And this is why conservatives for a long time have called out all of that hypocrisy for everybody, talking about carbon footprints and all that. And then they're using up more just in their one little trip to Davos than, I would use with, my little Nissan in probably 12 years. I mean, and talk about relatable. I mean, that, that's certainly relatable to the everyday, person who's concerned about affordability and some of these other things, to say, oh yeah, take the private jet, then the chopper, then the, big sedan. I mean, talk about just being completely out of touch. But I'm speaking with Larry Taunton. You can follow him at Larry Taunton on X. I'd encourage you to do that. He's an author and freelance columnist. Is at Davos. And so, Larry, do you think, though, what's kind of the cost benefit of Trump attending this? I mean, obviously, the headlines are really good. He's pushing back on some of this. But it almost seems like, maybe the WEF needs to just be sort of relegated to the dustbin of history. And, obviously, these are some of the major players that have a lot of wealth, a lot of influence and power. But do you think it's even worth it for Trump to go and lecture them?
I do, and I say that, Jenna, knowing full well that there are many who are critical of the fact that he's done so, or that Elon Musk has done so, or Javier Milei, or the head of the Heritage Foundation last year spoke here. Jenna, if I got an invitation to speak here, you better believe I would want to come, because I a lot of my work involves taking on people who don't agree with me, and those are the people I want to speak to. I don't want to just speak to the peanut gallery. I want to get in front of the fire-breathing opponents of what I represent, because I believe my ideas can withstand scrutiny. That I think it has been the approach of people like Trump and Milei and others who have decided this gives me an opportunity to get in front of world leaders. And while it is a kind of UN knockoff, in contrast to the UN, it involves corporate heads. And that's where Trump is actually most comfortable. He likes talking to corporate heads. I mean, Trump has been a corporate head, is a corporate head, and he's fundamentally a businessman. He wants to make deals. So in addition to, roughly 60 heads of state who have been here and 115 billionaires, you also have in attendance 600 plus CEOs of major corporations. This is a marvelous opportunity to get in front of them, to try to persuade them to get on board with what's going on, but also to reason with them. I mean, the ridiculous notion that I'm seeing that's being circulated by European media was that Trump was going to invade Greenland. I mean, it's absolute insanity. Trump never contemplated that, never threatened that. But that, of course, has been what's circulated in media here to create a kind of he's Dr. Strangelove, sitting on the bomb. And that's not what this was about at all. And then here he has the opportunity to speak here in Switzerland and lay out his plans on a variety of fronts and try to encourage these leaders to get on board with it. And by the way, Jenna, something he said that I thought was really significant that, again, has been overlooked is while he was speaking about bettering the lives of American citizens, he said to European leaders, world leaders, but specifically European leaders, you guys need to show more concern for your own citizens, for whom you show a complete disregard. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about failed economics and how many cities in Europe have become unrecognizable, which is completely true. And how mass immigration, just a complete lack of any kind of sensible immigration policy, has led to both impoverishment of some cities, but also to, a massive increase of violent crime.
Yeah, well, Larry Taunton, really appreciate your insights here. I wish we had more time because I want to ask you, more about where AI is going, some of these other things. We'll have to have you back, but we'll be right back with more here on Jenna Ellis in the Morning.
If you are 65 or older, you know this. Inflation is hitting everyone hard right now, especially when it comes to healthcare. Over the last 10 years, healthcare costs have skyrocketed by, get this, 230%. If you have Medicare Parts A and B, you know there are still out-of-pocket expenses like deductibles and copayments, and they really add up. But here's some good news. MediShare 65 Plus is designed to fill in those gaps and help protect you from rising healthcare costs. At only $99 per month up to age 75, you get peace of mind at a price you can afford. And MediShare is trusted, too. It's been around 30 years. It's not some big impersonal thing. It's a community of people helping each other, business owners, pastors, retirees. People love it. MediShare 65 Plus just makes sense. To learn more, give them a call. They're great to talk to. They'll offer to pray with you each time you call, too. Call now. 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE. 833-45-BIBLE.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tim Wildman, president of American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, we've decided to make our Spiritual Heritage Tour this year a walking tour. So we're going to walk in Washington, D.C., and we're going to walk down to Williamsburg and then walk over to Jamestown. So we're going to do a lot of walking on this tour. So if that's something you're interested in, understand that I'm just kidding. I'm just pulling your leg. Hey, we're going to see Washington, D.C. We're going to see Mount Vernon. We're going to see Williamsburg, Jamestown, Yorktown, Boston, Mass. So much to see on our 3 different tours in 2026. If you want to go and not walk, but you want to get on a bus, join us for these tours. Any one of these tours you can find out information on just by going to wildmangroup.com. WILDMON group.com. All the information on all the tours for 2026 are there, and we hope to see you on one.
Hello, Americans. I'm Todd Starnes. Stand by for news and commentary next. Jesus is not welcome in a New York high school because educators say our Lord is not inclusive. Kennedy Canales is a student at Plattsburgh Senior High School. She petitioned leadership to start a Jesus Club. School leaders signed off on another kid's secular club, but the Jesus Club was rejected. Kennedy was told that her club was not inclusive. Instead, they recommended a more generic name like the Faith Club. They said the club could not be overtly Christian. Now, the American Center for Law and Justice now representing Kennedy. They say the school violated the Equal Access Act. Under the law, public schools must allow religious clubs equal terms. So if you let the non-Christians have a club, you got to let the Christians have a club. The law, mighty clear. And the notion that Jesus is not inclusive is simply not true. The Bible clearly quotes our Lord as offering a personal invitation to everybody. Come unto me all who are weary and burdened. I'm Todd Starnes.
AFA Stream. It sounds like it could be a great place to catch fish or paddle a canoe. And as good as that is, AFA Stream is even better. It's a resource for life-changing instruction and information with videos like The Biblical Case for Cultural Engagement and God in the Constitution. It's also a source of wholesome entertainment and relaxation with family-friendly features like Ryan DeFrady's Secret Agent and The Pilgrim's Progress, plus access to some of your favorite AFA shows so you can catch up on what you missed or enjoy a favorite episode for a second or 10th time. You can watch a lot of content for free, or you can become a Great Commission partner. Then you'll not only open the door to everything AFA Stream has to offer, you'll get benefits like a subscription to The Stand and some really nice exclusives. Why not get started today? It's easy. Visit stream.afa.net when it's convenient. stream.afa.net.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
Welcome back. Well, as all of you know, this week AFR is partnering with PreBorn, which is one of the leading pro-life organizations that provides free ultrasounds to women who are contemplating whether they will keep their baby. And when a woman sees her baby on an ultrasound, hears that heartbeat, the odds that she will choose life drastically goes up. And while we are still in the midst of fighting for life and to make abortion not just illegal but unthinkable, this is one of the key tools that we can help these pro-life clinics use that will convince young mothers that abortion is absolutely unthinkable. So Roxy Lamorgese is the executive director of PreBorn, where she manages a team of 75 passionate pro-life individuals under the president with an extensive and rich background in the medical field, pro-management leadership, and the pro-life space. Roxy finds joy in mentoring, coaching, and helping ministries grow in operational impact and leadership excellence. So, Roxy, thanks so much, and tell us more about PreBorn. And for those who are wanting to help, you can go to afr.net. Please give that gift as much as you are able to help sponsor those ultrasounds.
Good morning, Jenna, and to all the listeners. We're just grateful for the partnership of AFR through the years. PreBorn is simple. I mean, our mission statement is very simple, to glorify Jesus Christ by saving lives and souls. In fact, this year we celebrate 20 years of that work, having seen more than 400,000 babies saved from abortion and more than 10,000 women committing their lives to Jesus.
Yeah, that's incredible. And obviously with saving a baby, that is a great step, and then saving lives for eternity with these decisions to accept Christ as their Lord and Savior. That's just incredible. What are some of the stories that you can share about these instances? Because when we talk about this and saying, these are the statistics, and obviously those things matter, it obviously helps when you hear some of these testimonies from people who have actually been in this situation and have worked with these mothers and saying, I've seen this actually happen where where women see an ultrasound and it just absolutely changes everything.
Awesome. Would love to share some. Actually got a video this week from one of our network clinics, and it's a story of an 18-year-old, very young couple. And obviously when they first found out that they were pregnant, they wanted to have an abortion, seeking out, even out of state one. But by God's grace, we were able to reach them through marketing. And, they realized, okay, maybe I should think about it a little bit more. They talked to one of our agents online, set them on an appointment in the clinic. When they got to the clinic, they received one of those free ultrasounds, right? The baby's actually bigger than when they realized. And she's like, I can't do this. She was supposed to go to New York a month or so ago to have that abortion, but she actually opted not to. When she received that ultrasound, she decided she was going to keep the baby. The father of the baby was actually present in the room, and he just got so engaged and so excited. In this video that I received, just both of them like celebrating the decision that they've made that day. And they actually have a picture of the ultrasound that they received for free, not only because we underwrote that free ultrasound for them, but the ultrasound that they used in that place was actually an ultrasound that was placed by PreBorn and the partners that support the work.
Wow, that's just incredible. And this just shows, Roxy, I think, why abortion advocates fight so hard against ultrasounds and ultrasounds requirements. Even if they're claiming, that abortion should be a choice, it's like, well, then give women all of the information and, allow them to use that ultrasound. But because it is so effective in showing the truth of life, the truth that this is a child that's made in the image of God, that is living. This isn't just a clump of cells like the abortion industry claims. This is why they're fighting so hard against ultrasounds, because this does change hearts and minds. And so, Roxy, how would you describe the kind of post-Dobbs, the overturn of Roe versus Wade, that landscape changing perhaps the demand for PreBorn's work?
Yeah, just like we shared, one thing remains the same. The landscape change, the mission is the same. At this moment in time, we are seeing a lot more women really wanting abortion earlier because of the pervasiveness of the abortion pill, right? So PreBorn stands to reach those women before she has to make that decision. And then it's the same. It's just earlier now. So whereas abortion was more common about 12 weeks, now we see women actually wanting abortion like around 6 weeks. So it is more important now than ever before that we get ahead and in front of her, giving her this ultrasound before she makes that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for those listening, if you would like to be part of this, you can provide a gift of $28 that provides a woman seeking an abortion a free ultrasound, giving the mom the opportunity to choose life for her baby. $140 provides a free ultrasound for 5 women with the message of life. You can call 877-616-2396, 877-616-2396, or give online at afr.net. And Roxy, this is also, one of those instances that completely, your entire ministry completely dispels the myth that the left also says, that claims that the pro-life movement just doesn't care, about women, doesn't care, about life. It's just, pro-baby. I mean, this is something where, as you mentioned, ministering to the mothers and the fathers of these children, that really causes not only a lifelong impact, but also an impact for eternity.
That's right. And I remember this. So I want to paint a picture of this long-term transformational work that you are supporting every time you help provide these life-saving ultrasounds for $28 or $140. I remember, so I actually used to serve at a clinic prior to doing the national ministry. And I remember one of my very first clients in the field, she was devastated, homeless. She was called by the hospital. She was unfit to be a mom. So by providence of God, she ended up on one of our clinics. I happened to be her nurse, ministered to her, gave her accurate information, provided her with the ultrasound. At that time, she really was broken over abortion, and she chose life for her baby. That day, we were able to share the gospel to her, and she actually also received Christ. She was in a very dysfunctional relationship at that moment. Her boyfriend was in addiction. It was just like this mess. Fast forward to right now, they are actually both delivered. They're both sober. Their baby is thriving, about 8 years old at this moment, and they are both serving at a local church. That's the work.
Wow. That's just so incredible. And this just again exemplifies why this isn't just even a focus on pro-life for the baby, but also, life and life abundantly, that scripture tells us that we can live in the hope that we have with Christ when we focus on doing his work and this mission. And we just love that PreBorn is helping to save lives and change hearts and minds every day. And this is where the testimonials that you have, Roxy, is just such a huge contrast between what's actually happening and where the abortion activists focus almost exclusively just on abortion access instead of real, genuine support for women and families. And, that contrast, I think, really shows the difference of where pro-life and the whole category of that mission is comparatively with, where the left is just harping on abortion access. And so, how does PreBorn's mission? How do you train the people that you have as ministers to actually help women without? Some of the critics are saying, oh, this is pressuring them. This is not really supporting them. I mean, but I just hear so much care and compassion and truth is what you're giving to these mothers.
First and foremost, we want truth really to be the highlight of our work, right? I mean, that is where we are. So we have this training called our CARE curriculum, which is compassionate, accurate, reliable, and evangelical nursing tool. We want to teach people how to be like effective missionaries while being excellent practitioners, not compromising on really her health as an entire person and caring for her holistically, including her spirit. That is really the work of the pro-life community. It's not just caring for her as an agenda. This is not agenda driven. This is real life, real love, real compassion. And we even have programs that support not only her decision making in that moment of crisis, where we give her relevant, medical, accurate information so she could really see her options, not shoving it down her throat, but really educating her on all these things that she is looking at to make a wise decision. Provide that ultrasound, share the gospel. Then the follow-up program, we have programs that help support her through discipleship, through church relations, 2 years that support her baby, diapers, parenting classes, all the things that she needs basically to help sustain that decision. So we intercept at a moment of crisis, provide her with the tools she needs to make a healthy decision, share the gospel, and then we help sustain that decision through the many programs that we offer to support her decision.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I think we also have a testimony of a woman named Christy talking about saving babies. Listen to this.
This is Christy calling from Texas. We have been supporting PreBorn for several years now. They are saving the lives of babies, mothers, saving their souls, bringing them to Jesus, which is beautiful. And most importantly is saving those babies' lives, adding, support, resources, changing their mind from abortion. They're providing resources, training. They're just doing good work. I can't say enough great about them. We have been sharing the good work that they do. We love their clarity with their financials and how they let us know where our donations are going to, where they need the most support so that we can specifically designate how we can help in supporting them. So I love what they're doing. I love the message they're sending, and they're spreading the word of Jesus and saving babies at the same time. So it's a beautiful organization. Can't say enough about them. I've brought in other family members to support them as well. And so just love everything they're doing. So can't say enough good about them. They're amazing.
Amazing. Well, it was Christy, and the organization is PreBorn, PreBorn's ministry. And if you're a regular listener on the podcast side, we always talk about PreBorn, especially during the Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. And so, again, your gift provides one woman seeking an abortion a free ultrasound. $140 provides 5 free ultrasound sessions, or even you could give enough to provide an ultrasound machine. So whatever you can do, we would ask you to partner with us this week with PreBorn. Give online at afr.net or call 877-616-2396. That's 877-616-2396. And Roxy, thanks so much. We've got to take a break here, but we will be right back, and make sure that you are going to afr.net, or again, that phone number is 877-616-2396.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Women going through the ordeal of infertility or miscarriage experience pain and loneliness that are too much for words. The Hannah's Heart Conference, January 30th and 31st, 2026, at Hope Church in Tupelo, Mississippi, can help bring hope and encouragement with biblical teaching from Jane Johnson and worship led by Phil King. For more information or to register, visit afr.net/HHC2026. afr.net/HHC2026.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt, and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about debt settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my bills, I saved thousands, and I even improved my credit score.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-788-1813.
Friends, new research is revealing something that's heartbreaking. More than 7 million American women suffer severe, long-lasting emotional distress after an abortion. Our friends at PreBorn see this pain firsthand. But there is hope. When a woman sees her baby on an ultrasound, everything changes. Her baby's chance at life doubles. And for just $28, you can sponsor that ultrasound.
If I hadn't saw the ultrasound, it would have been a totally different picture. She would never be here.
Your donation of $28 to PreBorn helps a woman to make a choice that she won't have to regret and gives her baby life. Help us rescue 5,000 babies this week. Go to afr.net or call 877-616-2396. That's 877-616-2396.
Hi, this is Darlene calling from Kentucky. What PreBorn means to me is that there are women out there who will not be in spiritual darkness for having made poor choices in their lives. They get to keep their baby and bring life. And by bringing life and light into this world, then we're just keeping the enemy at bay. Thank you. God bless.
Welcome back to Jenna Ellis in the Morning on American Family Radio.
Welcome back. And among all of these issues that we always consider in policy and get involved in, including pro-life and, all of these things that are very important to conservatives, especially to parents, education freedom has become, one of the main priorities, I think, for parents, especially here as well at AFA. And Florida, my home state, is now ranked number 1 in education freedom by ALEC, which is the American Legislative Exchange Council. And our Florida Commissioner of Education says that this ranking is a clear example of our commitment to giving families choice, flexibility, and access to high-quality education for their children across the state. So Florida Commissioner Anastasios Koumoutsas, or Stasi as he goes by, joins us now. And this is great news. As someone who was homeschooled K through 12, and before that was even really popular, that type of education and my parents being able to make that choice I was one of absolutely the greatest gifts that my parents could have given me was that home-based education and discipleship. And so, to actually give parents the opportunity to choose what is best for themselves and their families is just incredible. So tell us more about education freedom in Florida.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Jenna. And I must admit it's such a blessing to be the commissioner of education here in the free state of Florida, where thanks to the leadership of Governor Ron DeSantis, we continue to put win after win after win up on the board that's benefiting students, parents, and teachers across our state. Florida was ranked yesterday number 1 for education freedom for the 3rd year in a row by ALEC. In addition to this overall ranking, Florida was the only state that received an A+ rating this year. We also ranked number 1 for student-centered funding programs, charter schools, and homeschooling. As you know, the index evaluates each state on school choice and family empowerment policies. We know here in Florida that when parents are empowered to select the best educational setting for their children, students are going to succeed. And so this national recognition confirms that Florida's student-first approach is working, and it's one of many rankings that we have here. Obviously, Heritage Foundation also ranked Florida number 1 year after year in education freedom. The Parent Power Index ranks Florida we are ranked number 1 for several years in a row. And so this is something that we truly pride ourselves, and we are seeing results across the board increase in this state by putting students first.
And it's so important that students are put first, and parental rights in education matters. There was actually a clip I saw yesterday from a reporter that some Florida Democrats are saying in a leftist push to indoctrinate children during the 2026 legislative session, they're saying the quiet part out loud now. They're saying, your kids are my kids. And, this is just utterly ridiculous and nonsense, but it goes with, the leftist priorities to say that the state knows better than the parents what are in the best interest of the children. But children belong to the parents, not the state. And it's so important that the state actually understands that and supports parents instead of undermining them.
I couldn't agree more. I tell my story all the time. I was raised by a single mother of 3 kids. I was the oldest of 3, and I saw firsthand her fight for me, her advocate for me in the public education system down in Miami. And she was often overlooked. She was often put to the side and saying that the educators or the system knows better. But this is somebody who brought me home from day one, who changed me, who clothed me, who fed me, who stressed through the night when I was sick or struggling with sleep myself. I mean, there is no love like a parent. There is nobody who is going to care for that child more and who has followed that child's steps from the beginning. And so as I travel the state and I hear from parents directly with their concerns, it's often the fact that they, prior to this governor, felt that they didn't have the voice that he has now provided for them. We know a big part of that was during COVID, when at the district level, parents were hearing for the first time what exactly their children were being taught in the classroom through these remote and distance learning projects that were taking place at the time to make sure that we finished the school year. And so it's been amazing to see that Florida was the breeding ground for parents' rights. We have passed a lot of legislation, and it has really given parents a voice. And so I'm happy that Florida is being recognized nationally by every metric that measures this. And I must add, the public school system is benefiting by these policies as well. We tout these policies that are so pro-school choice, that are so pro-educational freedom. But I want to remind you, just a week ago, during the governor's State of the State address, he announced that Florida achieved a record-breaking graduation rate of 92.2%. This is the highest graduation rate in our state's history that measures our public school kids. And so by providing choice options, by providing competition to the public school, we are seeing that product is also improving, and students across the board are benefiting. It was an increase of 2.5 percentage points from our graduation rate last year and almost 5 percentage points since 21-22. But let's talk about these subgroups of students that are benefiting with these graduation rates because of these policies. Like African American students increased their graduation rates by almost 4 percentage points in just 1 year. Graduation rates for Hispanic students increased by 2.6 percentage points from last year. Graduation rates for economically disadvantaged students increased by 3.3 percentage points. And for students with disabilities, it increased by 2.3 percentage points from last year. This reflects the sustained progress under Governor DeSantis' leadership and demonstrates that Florida's unwavering commitment to student success is working.
Yeah, and it just shows that competition kind of raises the quality of everyone. And when we talk about education choice and school choice, there are a number of parents that, for a variety of reasons, are still going to choose a state-funded education, and that's why it's so important not just to neglect what's going on in those state-funded institutions, but make sure that the curriculum is sound, that we don't have these all of these different curricula that are promoting LGBTQ indoctrination or some of those things. And so this, I think, is an example of caring about all of the children across the state to say, okay, parents get to make that choice. And then if they choose the state-funded schools, then it's the state's job to ensure that what they're getting is actually a high-quality education, not just indoctrination. Like, clearly, the Florida Democrats are suggesting when, they're standing up there and wanting, Equality Florida to be, part of this. And they're out for an agenda of their own, not in the best interest of the quality of education of the child. And so, you mentioned, Commissioner, that this has been under the leadership of Governor DeSantis. Well, he is term limited. And so, this is another reason that, Florida's leadership needs to continue conservative. How should voters in Florida, and then even people listening from other states who, they're looking at their own state commissioner on education, they're looking at their own issues. How should people view what happens in the education realm as necessarily tied to, the choice that they have in voting?
Yeah, I think folks vote with their feet. We saw that post-COVID with the way the governor handled COVID, kept schools open, made sure businesses were protected, made sure students' health, safety, and well-being was protected. I mean, I remember I was general counsel at the time during the trial of so many of these fights where we fought to keep schools open. We fought back on mask mandates and the isolation impacts on students. And Dr. Jay Bhattacharya was one of our expert witnesses who said, so there are ways to be able to, through COVID, still do in-person learning. And so I think leadership has got to be key when folks go to the ballot box, because a lot of these fights that the governor took on, they're popular now, but let's remember he took quite a bit of criticism at the time when he fought for these conservative policies. And I think that's the other thing. It's leadership and also principled conservatism in the way that the individual governs. And you have mentioned the Democrats. I just want to highlight as well. It's them and the teachers union, quite frankly. It's scary to hear the monopoly that they want to maintain on education. Representatives from the teachers union were at our State Board of Education meeting yesterday. I have still yet to hear a single one of them highlight this graduation rate that is the highest in our state's history, which in large part is due to the teachers that they purport to represent. And so I know that the teachers union is accustomed to circulating misleading headlines that we're constantly having to correct, and that's going to be their shtick. But I just find it difficult to understand how an organization that claims to represent educators would fail to recognize rising graduation rates or publicly comment on the teachers and students whose hard work made that success possible. And so they were the biggest critics, the teachers union, of the governor's leadership during COVID. And now you fast forward 5-6 years later, and Randy Weingarten, the head of the National Teachers Union, says, no, we wanted schools to be open the entire time. So that's what I think voters really need to be paying attention to. Does the leader have a backbone? Are they a proven champion? And do they have true conservative values?
Yeah, so well said. And isn't it interesting how, the leftists, the teachers unions, the Democrats just want to rewrite history where, we all lived through that. It was just a mere 6 years ago. Like, we're all old enough to remember that, but they're trying to, silo and pigeonhole us, some of these things that we all lived through and rewrite it. And we shouldn't let them. We should make those advancements because of what actually came forward during COVID, and so many people during that time, because of the school closures across the country, had to try alternative methods to state-funded education, and some of them, shocker, parents liked being around their kids more, and liked that they were maybe away from certain other influences, or thinking like, wow, I thought this would be a lot more difficult than it is, and to have the state, instead of having a teachers union that is so against parents and trying in all kinds of ways to drive a wedge between the parent-child relationship, actually supporting parents and giving them, the practical tools and the genuine choice to be able, if they can, to spend that time more with their children. I want to ask you in just the last few minutes we have as well, Commissioner, about the Healthy Florida First initiative. First Lady Casey DeSantis went on Fox and Friends weekend highlighting findings of toxins in infant formula and how Florida is leading the change to do independent testing of our food supply. And you had posted that, these results are deeply concerning. I agree with that. And you're glad to support that effort any way that you can. And I think, this just highlights again how Florida is leading the way, how other states should take notice, do something similar in their states. But tell us a little bit more about this as well.
Yeah, I think it's an effort that, the First Lady chairing the MAHA Commission with our Lieutenant Governor are, going through some interesting different studies or projects as they partner with our Surgeon General, Dr. Latipo, to see how are we able to make America healthy again. As a state, what can we contribute to the federal efforts? Because we're on board. We love what's happening at the federal level, and we want to make sure that we're doing our part at the state level. And so I know that they're coming up with different ideas to look at, how can we better protect the health, safety, and well-being of our, the students that are in our state. What kind of foods are they being provided to them? You talk about the most vulnerable. How many kids infants are on baby formula, whether it's to, be in addition to breast milk or because the mother is not breastfeeding. And this is their primary source that they rely on for nutrition to be able to grow, to be able to develop and be healthy. And we know that health is a big part of student success in the classroom. And so to the extent we're able to support the First Lady's efforts to ensure that children are getting enough sleep, that children are eating the right foods, that children are doing everything they possibly can, and working with parents and our schools across the state to give them the best education possible through their health, in addition to so many of these rigorous subject areas that we're exposing them. We know that will continue to provide a world-class education. Look, we're number one in all kinds of metrics here in the state of Florida, but we do not rest on our laurels. And I think emphasizing and focusing on our children's health and how that is impacting their education is just one of those new innovative approaches that I'm thankful for the leadership of our First Lady to be able to help out students across the state.
Yeah, so well said. And I'm so thankful for everyone in the DeSantis administration, for you as the Commissioner of Education, and for everyone who is making Florida truly the free state of Florida and making this better for parents and families across the state. So Florida Commissioner of Education, you can follow him at Stasi Kamotsis. Really appreciate your time this morning. And a reminder that the PreBorn campaign is this week. Please give. So speaking about supporting, families and children, the opportunity that you have this year or this week, but you can throughout the year, but especially this week, is to give a gift of $28 that provides a woman a free ultrasound, giving the mom the opportunity to choose life for her baby. $140 provides 5 free ultrasound sessions, and perhaps you could sponsor, 5. You can give your best gift, really get involved in championing and advocating for life. Sanctity of Human Life Sunday was just this past Sunday. We're seeing the March for Life in D.C. coming up. I think it's this weekend. This is just such a great opportunity to really make a difference for life, for families, for parents, and ultimately for the truth of the gospel of Christ. So give online at afr.net, or you can call 877-616-2396. That's 877-616-2396. And as always, you can reach me and my team, Jenna, at afr.net.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.